This is good. Now this will be stuck in my head instead of the theme song from the X-Men 97 cartoon show, which they're bringing back, and that got stuck in my head.
All right, Awesemo, here we go. It's your old pal Emac coming to you on a Sunday night, little NFL live before lock. Once again, the Shield crushed us. There was all sorts of, I missed the Ray McLeod memo. If you got off the Jacoby Myers train one stop too early, my apologies to you. Hey, I guess Cam Newton is back. We've got all sorts of just Marcus Johnson, all sorts of horribleness that happened today. It was an unmitigated disaster yet again. I'm about ready to give up here on football, but what's that? Showdown slate. We've got one more chance, and gamers, we can get the nuts. So here we go. I've got Nick with me. I've got Terry with me. We're going to do our usual. We're going to build some lineups across the sites. We're going to talk a little Prize Picks and say are the sponsor of the show, and we're going to answer some questions. So we'll do the analysis kind of as we go across our different sites here. Whatever we don't hit, we'll hit on then, and then we'll walk on through to the Prize Picks. I want to remind you, if you use that promo code Awesemo to sign up for Prize Picks, they will give you $100 in your first deposit match. You put in 20, they'll give you 20. You put in 100, they'll give you 100. You put in 200, they're still going to give you 100 because it's a $100 deposit match. That's promo code Awesemo. Terry, are you ready to give up on the NFL yet?
I'm getting there. I mean, we were talking about it before the show, and yeah, for me, it's been a season where I just haven't been able to weave the right plays together into the right lineup so much. It's the right play over here and just not putting them together. So it's been a struggle this year, a few weeks with a couple of good lineups saving the day. But I haven't loved this season and where I'm at yet. So the way I introed my Showdown article for today was basically what you just said. Showdown is it's a playground for the people who have won during the afternoon, and it's like a last ditch clawing at the side of the cliff effort for trying to get some money back for the people who lost during the afternoon. So unfortunately, I'm in that bucket again today.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one tonight. Over under on how many times I call them the Los Angeles or the Oakland Raiders. We shall find out. Is it going to be David Carr or Derek Carr? We're in for a treat here. I see someone in chat says they think I'm high as a kite. The last time I had a little of the devil's lettuce, a little bit of the wacky tobacco, that was before Nick was walking this earth. It's been a hot minute since I've done anything like that.
Don't listen to him. He's all hopped up on goofballs, everybody.
I'm too old for this shit. I have to get up and go to work in the morning. I had a dog that wakes me up at 6, no matter what day it is. So yeah, no, none of that for me. I don't begrudge anybody. I mean,
just saying that because you're running for office. That's all. He doesn't inhale.
Well, I did inhale. I mean, I tried, but I just, that's a joke that's going to go everybody's head too, because nobody remembers Bill Clinton. All right, Nick, how was your NFL day? You've had some nice shows here, or some nice nights walking into the shows. Are you going to save us from, or is it going to be a three strikes and we're just out of here? Don't listen to whatever we say.
Yeah, it was a swing and a miss, and the ball was ready in the catcher's mitt type of deal today. I don't know. Everything just went wrong. I had all the good pieces. I had like Dearness Johnson and Mark Ingram, and then outside of that, everything was a complete and utter disaster. So maybe we could fix that tonight, hopefully.
All right. Well, let's dip on in here. Of course, we're going to build out some lineups. We'll do FanDuel first. Then we will do Yahoo, and then we'll go on DK, and then we will talk Prize Picks. Going over to FanDuel, we've had some reasonable results on some of these. I've been happy with our group efforts here across the way. Usually, I make sure I put in each of our lineups in. Usually, we've had enough on the worst weeks to cover the buy-in. And then a couple of the weeks we've made money, so that's been very nice. We're going to go over here to FanDuel. This is Terry's home site. Terry, what do we want to do here? We've got, let's see, the FanDuel rules are no defense, yes kickers. Yahoo is no kickers, yes defense. Draftkings does both, except they have the multiplier for the salary for anybody that goes into
consistency. Gotta love the consistency.
Oh, did we lose?
I don't know. We're good. Keep going.
I think you mean. I think Mike behind the scenes there meant the
gotcha. Okay, sorry. Well, we've had some bad luck on some of our streams lately, so somehow I haven't been involved. This would have been one where we had done that. So But anyway, DraftKings does it a little different. They get the multiplier on the salary boost on their multiplier. Terry, we've got FanDuel here. We got a couple quarterbacks that are not overly exciting. Well, Derek Carr, never exciting. However, he does have 20 or more fantasy points in 10 of his last 15 games. He's actually outscored Pat Mahomes in his last 3. Pat Mahomes is looking a little bit shaky. He is 2 years removed from a Super Bowl MVP, 3 years removed from being the third quarterback ever to throw 50 passing yards or 50 passing touchdowns in a season. Right now, he has the highest sack and interception rates of his career. I don't think he's broken. I think the league may have caught up with him a little bit. I think the offensive line woes may have him being hurried a little bit. I think his skill position guys are a little bit older, but I don't see why this shouldn't be working for this one. What do you got for us over there on Yahoo with our first selection here?
Yahoo or FanDuel?
FanDuel.
FanDuel. Okay. So yeah, it's one where, I typically like to go to the skill players in the multiplier spots on both FanDuel and Yahoo. FanDuel and DK. We've talked about it a few times through the season, but in this one, I mean, we're seeing some pretty high numbers on Pat Mahomes as the top scorer probability, the optimal lineup probability in the captain spot. And it's not egregiously bad in terms of negative leverage for his popularity in the captain spot as compared to how frequently he's coming up optimal. I just feel kind of like a donkey if I make that pick here, though. So I don't love doing that. So let's take it in a different direction and let's see what else we can come up with here. So I'm just looking at the probability of landing in the top spot compared to some of the ownership here. All right, a guy who's one of the stars that Mahomes tends to throw the ball to quite a bit is coming up with a pretty nice score as far as his probability of being the optimal play. And he's not as frequently owned as you would think, only 5.8 projected ownership in the captain spot. That's Travis Kelce. I'm going to go with the big tight end, Travis Kelce, in the captain spot here. We'll take a little bit of leverage. We'll try and make an ownership play in the captain. We'll hope he catches 2 touchdowns.
All right. Kelce is averaging just 2 fantasy points less than Tyreek Hill on the season, over their last 5 appearances. In 3 of these games, he's actually outproduced Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill has single-digit fantasy points in 2 of his last 3. Of course, he does have some monster games lurking out there. We've got, Kelce in the slot here. That gives us 11,625 the rest of the way. What would you like to do here, Nick?
Yeah, I think we're just going to go ahead and go with the very safe correlation play and go with Patrick Mahomes here. Now, obviously, that's a very safe play. Patrick Mahomes hasn't been all that great this season, but at the end of the day, the name value there, it's just going to trick you every single time. So we're going to go ahead and get Patrick Mahomes, the most passing attempts of any quarterback in the NFL. He has the 4th most passing yards. And I hope that tonight everything kind of clicks up against the Raiders, and they have a very big spot here. So I'm going to go ahead and go Pat Mahomes here.
All right. I am going to look across the way here. We're down to 9,800. That makes it a little tricky because if I go with Derek Carr, we're going to quickly be out of funds. I kind of like Darrell Williams here. If we go with Williams, we get 92.5. That leaves us in play. We could go with double kickers. We could start working in the tertiary wide receivers like Brian Edwards, Mecole Hardman, etc. I'm going to go with Darrell Williams here. We're going to go with a bit of a there's 2 teams. Not quite at an onslaught yet, but Terry, you could make it that way with the next selection if we want to go 4-1 here.
I mean, that's not ever really a bad approach, especially on FanDuel. I think the onslaught play is pretty strong. We see a lot of, particularly when we get into the 50s in terms of the game score on DraftKings with the multiplier, with the salary multiplier, we see a lot of even constructions come out ahead. On FanDuel, without the salary multiplier, I don't think it's really the same story. I think there is more viability into some of the double quarterback in the MVP spot, and these different things. We see fewer quarterbacks in the MVP spot. We see fewer onslaught victories on the DraftKings slate where those things matter more. So just looking around the board, 92.50 to spend. We can get to a lot of different pieces here. You mentioned there are some of those tertiary receivers. And I think if we were going to go to KC again, I would like to go to one of those guys. But I think maybe I'm going to leave that on the board. If Nick wants to make that play, I think it makes sense with the last pick here. But just to make it a little bit more difficult to see what we end up with, if I click on him, what does that leave us? Yeah, I'm going to take Josh Jacobs off the board at 12-5, and I'm going to put another running back into this lineup. I'm going to grab a piece of the Vegas side, and I'm going to leave Nick 6,000 to spend.
All right, that means we are down in the discount dandy range. We've got some interesting ones here. We have Deshaun Jackson, who theoretically is making his debut tonight. I suspect he will have. Now, can Derek Carr get him the ball? I'm not sure, but let's say he throws him one, maybe he gets about 30 air yards on it, and he takes it the rest of the way, and then of course scores a touchdown. There will be some sort of soft tissue injury, and he's going to be out for a month. But that's kind of what we've come to expect here from Deshaun Jackson. We have, let's see, Demarcus Robinson, who is $6,000. His snap count has gone over the last 3 weeks from about 75% to 20% in the last one. You've got Josh Gordon. His snap count has ticked up a little bit. He just has one target in each of the games he's played in, one target in each game. You got Alex Ingold, who does have had 1 and 3 targets in his last 2 games. So he is viable, but not amazing. You've got Jalen Richard. And then let's see, where's Zay Jones? We're just going to be short on Zay Jones. So Jalen Richard generally gets a target or two, might luck into a carry or two, but he's definitely behind Kenyon Drake and Jacobs there as well. What do you like amongst these guys? We're looking for a lucky play. We're hoping for 2 or 3 opportunities. That's kind of what we see down in this spot here. Do you see a home run play for us?
Yeah, nothing screams more lucky play than Deshaun Jackson, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, he hasn't been all that great this season. Week 3 up against the Bucks when he went up against Carlton Davis, he had 5 targets in that game. He had 120 yards, 3 receptions, and a touchdown in that game. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Derek Carr let it loose, threw it a couple of times his way, said, you know what, screw it. Deshaun Jackson's out there somewhere, and just threw it deep because, again, the Chiefs' defense is far from amazing. So I think Deshaun Jackson could get loose a couple times in this game, and all it could take is 2-3 targets to go his way for him to find his way into the end zone. So I'm going to go with the high upside shot of Deshaun Jackson. Do you guys like that play?
Yeah, I'm perfectly good. We need a lottery ticket down here. So we've got Kelsey, Mahomes, Williams, Josh Jacobs, Deshaun Jackson. We'll be locking that one in, having a little fun with that. Let's go over here and look at Yahoo. If you go to the Awesemo homepage, the front page there, you're going to see Matt Savoca did a game breakdown here with a showdown twist for tonight, Sunday Night Football. Terry did a leverage column about this. I did 2 different articles, one that's Yahoo centric and then one that's our main article for the showdown slate. It breaks down both teams by position and then ranks the entire player pool. And then there's 2 other wagering articles for this game on the homepage. Those are all free for everybody, so you'll definitely want to check that out. That is a variety of information. There's a bunch of different takes there, and that's the nuances that we're looking for in these games, because if you're playing these gigantic large field tournaments, you're going to have to consume all of the information and then figure out what the heck you're going to do with it. But we've laid this out a bunch of different ways. You get a bunch of different viewpoints here, and when you read across the different articles, you're going to see certain key things that come across with each one of them. Those might be the things that you want to home in on here, especially if it's something that the rest of the public is not necessarily headed towards. All right, we are going to go over here to Yahoo. Let's make our lineup there. Let me open this up. Let me get over to a contest here. All right, so I'm going to go first on Yahoo. I am going to go with Derek Carr. I am someone that has learned to love Derek Carr. I think the key thing we have here is he's underappreciated across the fantasy world. He is solid, though not spectacular. Last year, he did have 6 touchdowns in the 2 games against Kansas City, and that was with Kansas City having a much better defense than they do right now. Essentially, all season, they've been bottom 3 or 4, and at various points, worst in DVOA, both from a rushing and a passing perspective. I think with Carr, you get the opportunity that he likely has a good chance for multiple touchdowns. He has multiple touchdowns in most of his games. Granted, it is 2 in most of them. 3 asking for a lot there, but 2 very doable here. And I think, while I don't think Patrick Mahomes is a trap, we should get a bit of a rostership discount, to borrow a Yahoo phrase, on Derek Carr, because people are going to say, oh my gosh, I could get the Pat Mahomes for just $3 more. That I think is an interesting way to play this one out. Terry, what would you like to do with our next pick?
Yeah, I think that salary is noteworthy. The $3 difference there. That's a good call by you. And then just the fact that Tyreek Hill is $1 less. I think if you're thinking about it in terms of some of the flex spot plays as well, I think it's just a natural that people are going to say, why do I even want to go to Derek Carr? Let me just grab Tyreek Hill. It's superstar kind of a play. So, yeah, I think that's going to keep Derek Carr's ownership a little bit more limited than we would normally see. Taking a look at the boards, let me jump over to the 2 to 5 column here. I'll sort by that. That's what we've got on Yahoo. Looking for, I guess, some correlation with that Carr play to start us off with here. Don't necessarily know if I want to go directly to Darren Waller. I feel like that's where a lot of people would go with this one. Although maybe there's something to building the 2 tight end build where you go Waller and Kelsey, something that maybe not a lot of people would go to in this. But I'm going to look down to, let's go with Hunter Renfrow here in this spot. $17 feels a little bit light for Renfrow for his upside. 34.3% probability of being in the top 2 to 5 scorers. As the salary adjusted scoring, he's one of the leaders here. So I like that play. Grab a little bit of correlation with the Carr MVP spot or Carr superstar spot there, and go with Renfrow.
All right. Key things to know about Renfrow. He had a season high 9 targets in his last game. That was the first game, of course, without Henry Ruggs, who was released by the team for some off the field mistakes that he made. We have Zay Jones that sort of stepped into all of this. Well, we don't want to get into it. So don't get me started. I said this last, Uber, call a friend, Lyft. There's a variety of what, taxi, big yellow taxi, take your girl away, something like that.
I don't know what his contract is, but presumably he could have afforded like a private helicopter to come get him, or probably a lot of things.
Something,
or just call it the thing that the league gives them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they do. Actually, they don't talk about it because so many players don't use it. They don't publicize it that way. They should. Anyway, neither here nor there. But safe and sane, much better than dumb and dangerous. Just rules to live by. So Bryan Edwards is an intriguing option here. He just is chugging along in all of this. And then Deshaun Jackson is going to be making his debut. I think we really want to look towards, I really like looking towards Hunter Renfrow in this whole situation here. We're not getting enough of a discount for Bryan Edwards, even though I think he's a reasonable receiver, the other early draft pick that they had in addition to Henry Ruggs. So that's an interesting. And then you mentioned the 2 tight ends, Terry. Come on, these guys are de facto number 1 wide receivers here. Let's not lose sight of that.
And each of these guys has, looking in the historical sampling that I do in the groups article, each of these guys in games of this format, 52.5. It was a 2-point swing from 52.5 from that game total. Each of these tight ends has a victory already in the last 2 years in this showdown format in the captain role in a game that is very much in line with what tonight's game is looking like on the board in Vegas. So something to keep in mind. These are, to your point, essentially wide receiver 1s in the tight end role.
All right, Nick. So back on track here, but we got to throw in the analysis here and there. So we're cruising on down this. We have Derek Carr in the superstar spot. That's 1.5x multiplier. Hunter Renfrow. We have $25 per remaining slot left. What would you like to do here? We can go on the high end, get one of the big 3 on the Chiefs, or we can look towards the middle of the road again, or pick if you got a discount dandy you want to go with, roll them out now.
All right, so Terry stole exactly who I wanted to talk about, who was Hunter Renfrow, because without Henry Ruggs, he's getting over 8 targets a game, and he just looks really good out there. He's a very safe play with a lot of upside, but this time we're going to go ahead and go with Darrell Williams. I know we picked him last time, and I know a lot of people got a little bit nervous because Frank Gore's great-grandson, Derek Gore, stole a touchdown from him a couple of weeks ago, and everyone got a little bit nervous. But at the end of the day, Darrell Williams is still the number 1 running back on that team until, obviously, we end up seeing Clyde Edwards-Helaire return. I think in this game, he looks pretty solid up against the Raiders defense. So that would be my lean here to go ahead and snag Darrell Williams yet again on our team.
All right. I am comfortable with that one. You mentioned Frank Gore's grandson, not quite his grandson, actually no relation, but may as well be. He had 2 games ago, Monday Night Football, he popped onto everybody's radar, 16 snaps, 11 carries, 48 yards, and a score. Last week, only 10 snaps, 3 carries, 1 target. Jerick McKinnon was on the field for twice as many snaps. McKinnon doesn't ever carry the ball anymore. He had 3 targets, brought in all 3, but those were his only 3 touches in the last couple of games. So it is clearly Williams' backfield at this point. I think when Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back and he's getting close to a return, I think it's going to be a 60-40 split with Williams taking the lead on this one until he has bad games or, Clyde Edwards-Helaire regains the lead role with some good games. I think they're looking for reasons not to make Clyde Edwards-Helaire the main person, but I don't think we're going to see an 80-20 split. I think it'll be closer to 60-40, but I like that call there. Terry, let's go back to you here. What would you like to do with your pick? And then I'll finish her off here with whatever we land on, because I got some discount dandies for us.
Nice. Yeah, I like that call by Nick there with Darrell Williams, just to round it off. 3.6 yards per rushing attempt, 6.07 yards per target in the air. So involved in both aspects of the game. Miko Hardman, Clyde Edwards-Helaire outpaces him in those categories by a little bit, but I think to your point, when he comes back, it might be a little bit more of a blended offense, and we could see both of those guys featuring a little bit here. But we do need another pick here for the Yahoo board, so let's go back over to that side of the thing here. And we talked about these tight ends so much that I feel like I kind of have to take one of them. What do we have left to play with? We've got 29 per.
Do whatever you want.
We can take them both, actually, if we wanted to.
Yep.
With 29 per. We've got 30 and 27. I'll take Waller off the board at 27, and we'll leave 31 on the board for you to play with. You had a bunch of discount dandies in mind, but we don't need them. We can afford the second most expensive player on the board.
I think we just go with that. We just wrap this one up with Kelsey and it kind of just move along. So we end up with Derek Carr, Hunter Renfrow, Williams, Darren Waller, and Travis Kelsey. Solid lineup. This one's going to be a fun one tonight. Looking for each team to get 3.5 touchdowns. But then the next question becomes, but who's going to score them? Because there are a lot of capable people on both sides. The Raiders have three different non-quarterbacks projected for at least 12 points. Kansas City, I think, has 4. So that means there's a lot of different moving parts there. Well, I guess full PPR, you start to look at is where Mecole Hardman gets a little closer to double digits there. But that was interesting. But the cheapies we have on Yahoo, Mecole Hardman is 10. Byron Pringle is also 10. Zay Jones is 10. Jalen Richard is 10. Those guys are all viable. The more popular, as is Demarcus Robinson. The most viable, I think, is going to be Hardman. However, that is where most of the field is going to go. So, Byron Pringle is 11. So perhaps you go to Byron Pringle and get about a third of the popularity that you'll see from Mecole Hardman. He'll get about half the opportunities, but he, on a percentage of when he's on the field versus his targets, has a higher rate than any of the other cheapies on the Chiefs. All right, let's lock that one in. We're going to move on over here to DraftKings. Nick, we're going to let you make the first pick here as we get in on this one. Where would you like to start with our MVP?
All righty, sounds good. So for the MVP here, we're going to go ahead, and I'm just pulling it up right here on my computer. We're going to go ahead and go with, we went with Derek Carr last time, right? That's tough because that's who I wanted to go with. But we're going to not do that. We're going to
It's like you read my article. He was my number 1 pick. It's like there are 5 guys that are tied, but he got the number 1 pick, I guess, because you can't take that away from him. He's going to hang that on his wall after this game, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's very shocking that I know how to read too as well. So that's pretty good. So we're going to go ahead here and we're going to go a little bit very different in my opinion. And we're going to go with Josh Jacobs. To me, sure. I think Josh Jacobs has looked very good this season. At the beginning of the year, when Gruden was there, it just seemed like he was just giving Josh Jacobs the ball, regardless of how good Josh Jacobs looked. The guy looked like he was doing nothing, and he just fed him the rock a million times. Even now with the new coach, he's still looking like he's getting fed pretty heavily. Obviously, Kenyon Drake is still there, and he's going to take away a couple of receiving opportunities. But I want to go a little bit different here, so I want to go ahead and take Mr. Josh Jacobs here. Do you guys like that play, or are you guys more off of Josh Jacobs tonight?
No, I'm perfectly good with this because you can find a path where it ends up being so he has been getting around 13-ish carries per game, right? You've got Kenyon Drake still kind of lurking there. He's still Jacob still gets more of the carries. He's actually had 3 or 4 targets more often than not in his game, so he's not completely out of it. But when you've got Drake kind of lurking there, hate the Drake, it can be an issue there with him around. But Jacobs does have the potential for 1 or 2 touchdowns. The touchdowns have been helping him stay in double-digit fantasy points. So he kind of does need to score. But if you're going to get him scoring, why not go against the Chiefs, who have a horrible defense? Down at the bottom here, Terry, we have some options that really open up things for us. So we have Zay Jones at 600. That's someone that I think is a nice option. I would say 2 to 4 targets. A little bit of risk with Deshaun Jackson joining the squad, but do we really think Jackson's going to be out on the field for more than 20 snaps? I don't in particular. So Zay Jones specializes in haunting us. When we roll with him, he doesn't do anything. When we don't, he comes out of nowhere and gets a primetime touchdown. So at 600, that gives us some viable wiggle room. Deshaun Jackson's at 42. That feels a little spendy here. Byron Pringle is at 3,000. That's okay. I would still probably roll the dice with the savings on Zay Jones. So I just wanted to say we've got some extreme discounts here that will help us. We're probably going to take somewhere between 0 and 3.5 fantasy points on the full PPR. That's acceptable, but it will get us a lot of the other high-end options. So now knowing that, and we don't have to pinch any pennies right now if you're not looking to do so, what do you like here at the top? Or
yeah, you pushed me all the way into the savings column on our second pick with 7,300 to spend, 36.8 total to spend.
No, I'm just saying.
Sure, I can make a discount pick. Hey, why didn't we talk about that? Why didn't we talk about Marcus Kemp or that Stoner guy? You're apparently high, and why didn't you bring up the Stoner guy? So yeah, look, I think that actually some of those guys that you mentioned are pretty viable for this slate, right? I was actually eyeballing Zay Jones when I was not sure if you were going to throw this my way for the captain pick, because if we're looking at our board, he is our actually 4th most highly optimal captain play at 9.4%, which actually ties Pat Mahomes in the captain optimal rate and is 0.1 behind Darren Waller, with Tyreek Hill standing above those 3 guys. And he's the most positively leveraged one at a 4.5 leverage score. You're only getting him as the top scorer 0.1% of the time. So it's a major, major dart throw, but it comes up optimal because of everything else you can do by baking in that cheap $600 salary into the captain spot and using that as the multiplier. So it's an interesting wrinkle to the slate. I do not think it was one that I would make a lot of times, but maybe one to get ahead of the field on. He's only going to be 5% owned in that role. If you had him 10%, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So sneaky little play there with Zay Jones. I actually think the Byron Pringle one, just to grab a cheap flex guy off the top here, and since you wanted to talk about some of the discount guys, I think Pringle's somewhat interesting in that role. He's not overly expensive. You can plug him into the flex spot. You can potentially pick off a couple of deep targets. He's averaging 3.1 targets per game. What I like about him is 10.2 yards per target is by far the highest mark on the board on either team, with the exception of Zay Jones himself, who's at 12.27. Oh, and actually Deshaun Jackson, who I'm not counting because he wasn't on the team before I saw this and stuck him in there. So I like the Pringle side of it. It's grabbing a different angle into that KC passing game when so many people are going to be going to Kelsey, going to Hill, and then going to the other primary receivers there. I think that he's an interesting angle to it, and it saves us some money. And now we've got a ton to play with across the rest of the lineup. So give me Byron Pringle.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. He is the ultimate in the boom bust. We didn't have him on either of our other 2 rosters. If I'm remembering correctly, we did get Kelsey in on one of those. So let's go with Tyreek Hill. 3 spots left, Nick. You got 7,600. Really no salary concerns because we know we've always got those cheapies we just discussed ad nauseum to bail us out with the last spot. So you have the flexibility to do whatever you would like with this pick.
Alrighty. I'm thinking about just doing the big play here and go with Patrick Mahomes, then making you guys look at the 2 cheap guys, which I think is a fine option, obviously, since we have 2 receivers already from the Chiefs with Hill and Pringle. And I feel as though for Pringle and Hill to have a good game, you would assume that Patrick Mahomes would have to play pretty good as well. I know that might be a little too complicated, but yeah, so we're going to go ahead and go with Patrick Mahomes here. Again, I figure that he's going to turn it around every single week. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to turn it around. It never seems to happen, but maybe this week up against the Raiders defense, he's able to get it done. I like him this week, so we're going to go Pat Mahomes.
I like it. Right. And that plays into what we've seen just over and over again in my historical sampling, is that we want a quarterback in these DraftKings lineups. It doesn't have to be in the captain spot. More often than not, it's better to put them in the flex spot, but I just want to always hammer that point. We always want to be building with quarterbacks in the flex roles. It's the most common trend that we've seen through the historical sampling of these results.
All right. So let me see here. No pressure on this, but
No pressure.
Terry, which would you prefer? Where's Zay Jones? Zay Jones is 600. So if we went with Zay Jones, we could get Waller still. We could easily get Renfro and move up off of Zay Jones. I don't know that there's much to move up off of here. Do you like the Zay Jones Waller combination, or would you prefer to drop down to someone like Williams? Then we've got 3,200. We've already used up Pringle. The rest of the guys here are not overly enticing. You've got Demarcus Robinson, who's not even really running wind sprints anymore at this point. We've got Jalen Richard that would fit in. We got the Chiefs defense. Nothing particularly exciting there. I'm kind of liking the Zay Jones Waller combination. What are your thoughts on that? Would you prefer Waller or Renfro full PPR here? This is a team pick for our last two.
Yeah, I think I don't hate that, the Zay Jones Waller, because it gives us a kind of even build, right? It gives us a 3-3. It gives us the tie-in with Jacobs at the captain spot. You're not necessarily taking you're taking Waller, which is a big piece of the passing game, obviously, but taking Zay Jones is more of a Derek Carr just needs a one shot to get a touchdown out of Zay Jones and make him pay off at that 600 price. So it kind of makes sense to go that route if we're not including Derek Carr in here, saying that these guys can probably get their job done without Carr going off and having a big game like what Nick was saying about Mahomes. And I agree with that point. Putting Pringle and Hill kind of dictates that Mahomes is likely to have a big game here. So I think that makes some sense. There's also the path of doing it and just saying, if you go Darrell Williams 72, that leaves us 32. So you could go exactly Darrell Williams and the Chiefs. You could build a really weird lineup that has Jacobs in the captain spot and is a 1-5 with the captain on his own, and then a Chiefs wipeout through the middle and playing the Chiefs defense against your captain, where it doesn't have to be a crazy big game for Jacobs to just punch two in, have a decent captain score, and maybe carry this lineup to success. So I think that's viable, but I think the more likely way to attack it would be the Zay Jones and Waller one.
All right. So for those playing along at home, that is Josh Jacobs in the captain spot, Pringle, Hill, Mahomes for the KC side, Waller and Zay Jones rounding that one out. We're going to come back here. We're going to talk a little bit more on the analysis that we may have missed on going through these builds. We will get to prize picks. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about how you can utilize Awesemo odds to help you out with prize picks. But you know what helps you out the best with prize picks? When you make your first deposit, use the promo code Awesemo. They'll match you up to $100. That money comes out first when you pick your first player cards. How it works over there on prize picks is you pick 2, 3, 4, or 5 of their player props. They have same game parlays. They have second half contests. They have first half contests. You can run them across multiple sports. These are not static lines. They do change. They're not changing them dramatically all the time, but as we have seen, if they have something that is a little off or a little more than they would like, or something starts to get a little popular, they'll move it the other direction. Hey, nothing wrong with that. It just means you need to start looking at some of the stuff early, especially with college football player props. You get that. You can listen to Betting You. That is our podcast that comes out on Wednesday with Matt Kajeski and Ben Raza. They'll hit on a few of these player props that are already posted there on Prize Picks, and those do tend to change dramatically by the time they get to Saturday. So you don't want to wait around until Saturday to get in on that action. All right, let's start with the visiting team and see if there's anything we missed. So key things I noticed about or noted about Pat Mahomes: it has now been 3 games since he had a 300-yard passing game. That is a lot. He's, as I mentioned earlier, he's at the highest interception rate and the highest sack rate of his career. And then he has 10 interceptions already this season. His last 2 years, 29 games, 11 interceptions. Yikes. Has the league figured him out, Nick? Is something amiss, or is this just a run of tough luck?
No, I don't think the league has figured out Patrick Mahomes. I just think he's getting very unlucky. Like a lot of these interceptions is just bouncing off of guys' hands that he's throwing the ball right to. Kind of like in the Super Bowl when he hit, I don't even remember who it was. I think he hit a guy directly in the face and he didn't catch the ball. That's kind of just what it feels like this season. Like basically every single thing that could go wrong for Patrick Mahomes is going wrong. So I would go ahead and say that he's probably going to be just fine, right? He's still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, if not the best quarterback in the NFL. Maybe things won't correct itself this season, but at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I expect him to play quite well here as well as going forward. Again, like I said, he was the number 4 passing yards leader in the NFL. He has thrown 20 touchdowns, which is third in the NFL at a 5.5% rate. Patrick Mahomes typically is a guy that you would think would have a higher passing touchdown rate than he does right now with 5.5%, but hey, could be a lot worse than that. His deep ball completion percentage, though, is way down compared to normal. It's only 33.3%, which ranks 24th at the quarterback position in the NFL. So that's not great, but at the end of the day, I think he's going to be just fine here. Do you guys think that Patrick Mahomes is done for? Do you think he's washed up? Or
Yeah,
like a lot of people are saying?
I don't think there's much risk that the league has figured out a guy who can be running full sprint this way and then throw the ball across his body that way, basically underhand sidearm at like
without
90 miles
looking,
an hour.
Terry, without
spiral,
looking.
right? Without looking, yeah, no look across the field, dead spiral to a guy running full speed the other way. Yeah, I think Pat Mahomes is fine. I agree with what you're saying. There's been a lot of happenstance. A lot of the picks that I've seen him throw, just personally, just watching red zone and stuff, have been balls off of guys' hands and just silly type things more than mistake type things. So I'm with you on that. Another thing to just throw into the mix, still capable of running the ball. 6.1 yards per rushing attempt, 227 yards on the season, has 1 rushing touchdown. So can always tuck the ball and run with it when he needs to. 7 yards per attempt in the air, 65.2% completion. Like you said, 20 TDs on the season. Maybe also suffering a little bit. He's got Hill, he's got Kelsey. Maybe the league has figured out coverage for those guys a little bit more than we've figured out Mahomes in general. And that was a reason I was actually thinking that they might have been a team that was going to be out there shopping around trying to get Odell Beckham in here just to give him another weapon. I think he's short one weapon in terms of the wide receiver pool here. So I think that's hurting him a little bit. But overall, Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes. I'm willing to bet on him every time out.
All right, we hit on the running backs here for the Chiefs pretty good. It's pretty much 80-20 with Williams. When we get to the receivers, let's count Travis Kelce in that mix. Tyreek Hill is second in the league. Second in the league with targets, 5th with 85.8 receiving yards per game, and his 6 touchdowns are just inside the top 10, though he has had single-digit fantasy point performances in 2 of his last 3. In those 2 games, he had 20 targets. So it's not for lack of opportunity. It's just that it hasn't quite worked out. We've seen that Demarcus Robinson, as I mentioned, went from 78 to 22 snap percent rate over the last 3 weeks. Josh Gordon and Mecole Hardman have both kind of been in the where that's been a little bit of an increase. Conversely there for Josh Gordon, and then Mecole Hardman and Byron Pringle have kind of maintained their roles, that 60 to 65 for Hardman, that 40 to 40, 45 to 50 for Pringle in this one. In the last 3 weeks, the targets have been Hill at 38. Think about that for a second. 38 targets in 3 weeks. Pretty good there. Hardman 18, Pringle 8, Robinson 6, though I think he only had 1 or 2 in the last game. And then Gordon has had 1 target in each of the last 3 games. Kelsey has, been pretty solid there. We've seen Blake Bell and Noah Gray in on about 50% of the snaps this year. Now they're not getting any targets. Bell had 3 in the last 3 games. Gray just has 1 on the season, and I think it came 3 games ago. So they're not getting a lot, but they're kind of in there for additional protection for Mahomes. We want to remember that more often than not, Kelsey is either splitting out or working out of the slot. So he's not really in there blocking. So that's key things to remember. Anything either of you guys wants to add for the pass catchers here for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I covered it pretty well. I mean, everybody knows we've got the 2 big stars on this offense. We just mentioned them a second ago. 772 yards and 6 TDs for Hill, seeing 7.64 yards per target. And Kelsey right there with him, 7.95 yards per target, a little bit more on the per target yards, a little bit less on the aggregate yards, 628 yards for the season, 5 touchdowns, but both spectacular options. My question for you guys is, Nick or Emac, how frequently would you be putting both of these guys in your lineup, especially considering that if you're putting both of them in, you probably also want Pat Mahomes, and that just gets difficult to do at this on these showdown slates.
Yeah, when you start to build that lineup out, and I'm other than lineups we build, I'm mostly just playing on DK tonight because I'm playing all the sports, all the other slates, all the everything else. So the day was busy, plus 3 articles, and I'm recording the slate starter show. After this, you guys can catch that. It'll probably be posted about around 11 p.m. Eastern, and that, of course, is our NBA first look ahead at Monday slate. I will be joined once again by Pete the Heat Rogers We're seeing all sorts of people do some crossover sports here. We saw Matt Savoca do a couple NBA shows, including the one just before us for NBA Live Before Lock. You had Greg Ehrenberg over there doing MMA with Pete Rogers earlier yesterday morning. So it's been a lot of fun seeing how many talented analysts we have across a variety of the sports. That is pretty cool here. Nick, we're going to turn this one over to you. Derek Carr, you agree, right? He's not old. He's not dusty. He's got 296 yards in 6 of his 8 games this season. He's got multiple touchdowns in 6 of his 8. Again, those multiple touchdowns have been 2, but still multiple touchdowns here. What are you thinking about Derek Carr? I almost slipped up and said David Carr, but I caught myself there.
Yeah, Derek Carr, I think, gets a lot of unneeded disrespect a lot of the time. A lot of people just see him as average, and maybe he's just slightly above average, but I think he's a little bit better than people give him credit for. I was shocked to see when I was researching Derek Carr that his protection rate is 89.4%, which ranks 3rd in the NFL. So the Raiders' offensive line has actually been a lot better than I presumed that they have been this season. The team is ranking 7th in team pass plays per game, and I think this should be a relatively pass-heavy game, obviously, considering the Kansas City Chiefs defense is a complete and utter dumpster fire. So that should point to a very solid game out of Derek Carr here. He ranks 3rd in passing yards. He has 13 touchdowns on the season, which is not very hot. That is ranking 15th at the quarterback position. But unlike Patrick Mahomes, who we were talking about a little bit earlier with a bit of rushing upside, Derek Carr, I almost said David Carr right there as well, even though I don't think I was alive
didn't have any rushing upside either
when David Carr was playing. But at the end of the day, yeah, Derek Carr has just 22 carries on the season. So this guy's basically a statue in the pocket. But, you know, maybe he'll run one tonight just because I insulted him, as if he's watching this right before he goes ahead and steps on the field. But again, I do feel pretty comfortable with Derek Carr tonight. I think that he does get a lot of discredit. And I think that here we see him have a pretty solid game. And if Darren Waller is able to look very good in this game, then Derek Carr could easily be the optimal captain, MVP, depending on what site you're playing on.
If he does run one, I hope they're close to wherever he's going, because he's averaging 1.5 yards per rushing attempt, 34 yards in those 22 carries. Gotta love it. But yeah, hey, he takes one over the top, and that could definitely screw up Josh Jacobs' day. It could screw up Darren Waller's day, to your point. So it's definitely on the board. Anybody who watched the Bills today and saw Matt Breida carry 2 in knows these touchdowns can come from anywhere.
All right,
I love Matt Breida.
I see a couple people here talking in chat, wondering who's going to be projected the highest, how many targets are being projected here for Gordon. You can get all of this. This is everything we have is behind the paywall here at Awesemo. And if you use the promo code NFL Showdown LBL, see, I got it this time, Terry. NFL Showdown LBL. I've got it tattooed on my arm right here. So hopefully they don't change that promo code. But we've got that will get you 25% off your 1 week all access Awesemo everything behind the paywall pass. It is definitely worth it to use that promo code. There's a variety of other ways you can get in for free. We talk about the Awesemo Hall of Fame. We talk about the Fred Van Elite Fan Club contest. We got all sorts of ways for you guys to jump on in here, and it's a lot of fun behind the paywall. And especially any of the subscriptions that you come in with, you would get access to the premium Discord. All channels. Sure. So this is where we're helping people out. They're asking fantasy cruncher questions, all sorts of stuff. Terry's created a DFS 101 channel where we go over the stuff. That's been one of our more popular channels here, because things get lost in the main channel. So here we can have a little back and forth. I learn something new every couple of days on how to use fantasy cruncher or how to approach things differently. It saves you a lot of time, and we're always happy to help people avoid stepping in the bear traps we've already stepped in. There will be others out there for us, but if we can help you with the learning curve, that is worth the subscription in and of itself. So again,
that's the guy who's already gnawed his foot off and is currently caught in another one, how to avoid them. That's the way to go for sure. You know, you want to find out how to navigate the forest the right way. What I love about our 101 channel in particular is we've got a lot of really just good members in there. Like when I'm not around, I pop in there from time to time and I see that, you know, paragraphs and paragraphs of questions and answers have gone on where, you know, you haven't been there, I haven't been there, none of the guys from the site have, but just members helping other members out. We've got a lot of really sharp people in the community. We've got some guys who have built some killer tools, made their own videos for how to, explaining how to do things like Excel sorting and some of the stuff that we talk about at the site, but we don't necessarily get into, you know, providing tools for like Excel building because it's just way too much to support. But we've got some people who will tell you exactly what you need to do to build it. I'm happy to help with stuff like that as well. EMAC is too. So I encourage everybody to jump in there. for our YouTube members, people who have the access to the little EMAC emojis and everything here on YouTube and have joined our community here, we're going to be popping up a YouTube member exclusive channel in Discord as well. So a little community for the people who are paying YouTube members to hang out in and socialize. So that'll be coming soon. So keep an eye out for that as well.
All right, let's get back in here. But I do want to say, please hit that subscribe button. We do have 1,000 people watching. We just hit 65,500 today. We're on our way to 70,000. It's phenomenal. We had over 4,000 concurrent members viewers watching the DFS morning show. We started at 8:30 because we have so much demand to get all of our information out there. 4.5 hours. Can't even imagine that. That's longer than any other NFL pregame shows. We're running this out there for 4.5 hours. So check that out. And we got 1,000 of us here. Let's get us up to 200 likes. You know, when we get to 200 likes, I'm team free money. I'm dropping it in there.
We got to work on the marketing there too, by the way. Sorry to cut you off, but I mean, we're at 65,000 people. That's a hell of a lot. That's one of these stadiums for these games that we're watching, right? We could fill one of these stadiums with our people. We had 4,000 people watching the stream this morning, the NFL streams. That was, if I remember correctly, 7.7% of what the Detroit Lions are drawing on the average for the season. We have a killer crowd out there, killer audience. I love it. But we've got to work on that marketing. We're not on our way to 70,000. We're on our way to 100,000. Let's go. 65,000. Let's get us up to 100,000. Come on.
All right. But yeah, get us up to 200 likes here. Put some team free money, DK head to heads. I've been swept the last two showdown slates. Team free money has been donating. You don't want to miss out on that. Shout out here. D-Rich says, come on guys with the advertising. I think he's cheering us on and wants to hear more ads.
Let's go. He loves our reads.
If he's looking for more content, remember, I did mention 7 free articles on the homepage right now covering just this game. 4 from DFS, 3 from a betting standpoint. Check it out. We got all the information you need. Plus, we've got all the premium tools behind the paywall. You can get in there with the NFL Express package, $4.95 a week, and gets you all of the showdown content for Monday, Sunday, and Thursday night football. Running backs.
Well, that made me think of his Demolition Man when they're listening to the commercial jingles on the radio.
That's such an underrated movie. All right. And Sandra Bullock, gosh, so cute. All right, Nick, what do we got here for the running backs with the Oakland Raiders, the former Oakland Raiders? Talk to me here. You are pretty high on Waller. Does Drake concern you at all?
Yeah, Drake was actually the guy that I wanted to talk about because Kenyon Drake has been pretty well utilized by the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. The last 3 games, he had a 19% snap share in week 6, and then a 39% snap share in week 7. And then last week up against the Giants, he had a 44% snap share, 44.8%. In that game, he had 100 total yards. The 2 games before that, he had 2 touchdowns and 1 touchdown. So I think that Kenyon Drake is in a very sneaky spot to basically screw every single person over. Typically at the end of the live stream, we say, who's the guy that you wish you had more of? That's probably going to be Kenyon Drake, because don't really have any of him. And I could really see him having a really big spot here. Again, like I said, just seems to always find his way into the end zone as of recently, and is a guy that is a pest to Josh Jacobs in terms of receptions. I mean, the guy had 8 targets last week, 6 receptions. So he's definitely going to be a guy that Derek Carr looks to involve in this offense. So you guys like Kenyon Drake? Because I don't even think we took him once in a single lineup.
Yeah, I don't think we did. And that's definitely one that I think a lot of people will be doing that exact same thing, kind of building along the lines that we were and leaving Drake on the table. And it's probably a good spot where that's a potential guy that could burn you, like you said. And yes, anybody who's playing 50-ish% of the snaps over the last few games, you mentioned 8 targets last week, doubled up Jacobs' target total from last week. For the season, 8.29 yards per target. So a decent amount of production through the air, 257 total yards, 1 touchdown. On the ground, 4.1 yards per attempt. That is outpacing Jacobs at 3.8 yards per rushing attempt. Jacobs 280 total yards, 5 TDs. Drake 190 total yards, 2 TDs. But yeah, on a per touch basis, he's outpacing Jacobs. So it certainly makes sense for them to involve him in the offense and for us to keep him in DFS lineups for sure.
All right. And then pass catchers here. Terry, we'll let you get a crack at this one from Oakland, throwing in Waller. We've hit on Zay Jones 5 different ways. We've made jokes about Deshaun Jackson. We like Hunter Renfrow against lefties. Whoops, wrong sport. We like Hunter Renfrow on short passes from Derek Carr. Anything else you wanted to mention on any of the pass catchers here? And then we'll talk some prize picks.
Yeah, I mean, that really covers it. The two primary options are going to be Waller and Renfro, but I think any mix of like Brian Edwards, Zay Jones, and Deshaun Jackson is definitely viable, at least as mix and match options to build into lineups for a little bit less money. Take some dart throws there. Particularly the guys who are the deep threats, right? The Deshaun Jackson and Zay Jones plays. We mentioned it earlier. Deshaun, 14.73 yards per target this season. That's 221 total yards on a TD. It's a limited amount of volume overall. Hasn't played that much, but certainly we know that that's what Deshaun Jackson is when he is on the field. It only takes one good look, and he could be gone, and he could put up a decent enough score, at least in a flex role, to be very relevant. And it's pretty similar for Zay Jones, 12.27 yards per target on the season, 135 total yards and one TD. Similar kind of idea. If he gets one deep look and catches it on the right angle, and maybe it's a situation where, they're both on the field, Deshaun gets the coverage and Zay Jones is the guy who breaks out and gets free. So I think both of those guys, within reason, mixing and matching them into lineups certainly makes some sense. But obviously, Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow are going to be the focal points. It's also a situation where, kind of like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, I don't know how much Waller and Renfrow I'd be playing together. I might be looking to separate them a little bit more. I would get to it. I wouldn't totally rule it out. But if I'm going to both of them, I want to include the quarterback. We get a little bit pricey once we start down that road. So it's a situation where I would look at the potential upside and what we might sacrifice if we're doing that.
All right, hit that like button. I just dropped those 10 in there because I got stuff I got to do. I can't wait for you forever. But come on, all I need, there's 980 of you watching. That means there's at least 700 of you that have not hit the like button. I'm just asking for 100 of you to hit it. Come on. 1 and 7, all the things we do. And until we get there, I'm just going to have to do ad reads. Talk about Prize Picks here. They are now live in the state of Maryland. It's a prop-based contest. Use the promo code Awesemo for a $100 first match deposit bonus. You're not going to have to worry about sharks, optimizers, or mass multi-entries. It is you against their questions. They have questions in between 12 and 20 sports on any given day. They have first half, second half questions. They have single game contests now. The only rule is you can't use the player twice on the same card. If you pick up to a 5-player lineup, and we can do 2, 3, 4, or 5, go up to 5, you can get up to 10x your entry fee. Use your knowledge of multiple sports with cross-sports entries. It is definitely the way to go. They have an excellent app that is available in the App Store or Google Play. I like to look at it online at prizepicks.com, so you can check that out there. Let's hit on some of the questions that we have out there. I took these about 45 minutes ago, so they may have moved just a little bit. Things are tight tonight compared to what we're looking at for Awesemo here. I've got these on the run sheet for you guys if you want to take a peek. But with the passing yards, they have Patrick Mahomes at 280.5. Awesemo had him at 281.5. I don't feel great one way or the other on that one. Derek Carr coming in at 283.5 on Prize Picks. Awesemo has him at 289. Did mention that he has 296 or higher in 6 of his 8 games. That would be the over I would sort of be looking to, but I think both of these are kind of an appropriate stay away. Do you guys have a strong feeling on either one of those? Because we've got about 19 more we can look at. It's not, these aren't the only ones we have to choose, and there's lots more options across all of the other sports. Doesn't have to be just from this game, though we're only going to talk about from this game.
You got anything here, Terry? Because I was just going to say that I'm not very comfortable with either of them, if I'm being honest with you. Derek Carr is the one. If it was like, gun to the head, you got to pick one or the other, I'd take the Derek Carr over. But the Patrick Mahomes one seems real sharp. Seems like he's just going to get like 281 yards or 280 yards. And you're going to feel like a real idiot either way. So I would probably just stay away from Mahomes and go with the Derek Carr over if I had to take one.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really tight. We had on the site, it was a 288.5. And Alex had him at 289.5. So essentially dead even money, a coin flip. Yeah. He had it at the Mahomes line was 285.5. So if that one's at 281, it probably has come up to a coin flip. The over on that one was at 45% probability of a win. So Alex had him pegged at 281.58 yards. So if it's 281.5, we're talking about 2 coin flips. We're looking to do better in terms of probability there. So we want to look for at least a 60% expected win threshold for me for most of these prize pick picks. So neither of those would make that cut.
All right. Rushing yards. We've got Pat Mahomes there. They have him for 20.5. Awesemo has him for 29. 27.9. We got Tyreek Hill. They have him for half. Awesemo has him for 4. That's sort of a yes or no. Is he going to get a jet sweep or a little, is he going to get something that could have been one of those forward flip passes, but it's actually going to end up being a run? This is a little bit tricky, but that one's kind of intriguing to me. Josh Jacobs coming in relatively neutral, 55 on Prize Picks, 55.5, 59.8 on Awesemo. I do like the over for Josh Jacobs. I think this is a good opportunity for him to do well. I think we're going to see something in the 70 yards, not 100, but we're going to hopefully see more than 55. And then Derek Carr, 5.5. Awesemo has him at 9. Terry, you said bad things about Derek Carr's rushing ability here. Do you want the under on that? Let's start out with that.
Wow, I guess we're expecting the big game from Derek Carr's feet today. That's a bit of a surprise based on what we've seen from him, based on the 1.5 yards per rushing attempt. He's going to have to take off a lot of times at that rate to meet that mark. But if the boss likes it, I gotta ride with it. So I'll go with that. The one I was going to call out was actually a guy that Nick liked. Was an interesting one, I think, at the top of the board. Highest probability in our rushing section was at 25.5 yards for Kenyon Drake, but it was a high probability on the under. Alex actually has him at 23.5. But if we look over at Prize Picks, he's at 24.5. So he's kind of in between those two now. So I think that ends up coming up more like a coin flip, but maybe it's trending into the 55 to 58% range. Is that one that you like, Nick? 24.5 yards, taking the over for Kenyon Drake when Alex was leaning under on 25.5?
Yeah, for me, a lot of the value with Kenyon Drake isn't really about his rushing yards, right? When I'm looking at him from a fantasy perspective, I'm really looking at, maybe he'll see those 6, 7, 8+ targets in a game. That's going to really take him over the top at his price point. So I'm definitely not sold in on his rushing yards, though. 24.5. I wouldn't go under, though. I just probably wouldn't take it at all, to be honest.
Yeah, it might be one just best left on the table. It looked good at the top of the board when when it was different from site to site, but I think that 1 yard makes a pretty strong difference here. So based on what we're seeing, Mac, you need time on your lineups here. Do you want us to drive or?
If you want to run this for a minute, we got a lot of options here on the receiving yards. The ones that stand out to me are going to be the 2 Raiders. I think Darren Waller, 66.5. I do like the over for that. Hunter Renfrow, 56.5. I like the over on him. I looked at their fantasy point props. There weren't that many on the board. Those were a little bit tight, so I'd prefer the yardage props on that. But what do you guys see amongst our passing options? Not a lot of wiggle room aside from those 2.
Yeah, I was trying to. Oh, you can go. Sorry. No, I was gonna say I don't know what Kenyon Drake's receiving yards that Alex has. Do you have that pulled up?
Kenyon Drake receiving yards. Yeah,
it says 18.5 on Prize Picks, and I feel like that's a little too low.
So we had him, Alex has him projected at 18.72. The line that Alex was using was 20.5, and he had it 64% likely to hit the under. So it sounds like Alex has him pegged like exactly where that line is. We got a lot of efficient lines on the Prize Picks board tonight. Everything is coming up around a coin flip. Just taking a look at other things that are on this page in terms of this game. Darren Waller looks like we've got a 67.5 line with an expected win. Here's a good one, I think. Let's see. Nope, I didn't sort that the right way. So that is actually also coming up a little bit as a coin flip. Yeah, that one's coming up 52% also. So 67.5. Alex has him pegged at 72.1. So he likes the over, but only at 52%. So that is not an easy one to pick off either. We have to look toward the running backs here. No, those are unders. Boy, I'm struggling to find anybody that you'd like to go over.
I think it's Tyreek Hill, according to Emacs run sheet here, because he's at 72.5 and Alex had it at 83.5. So that would be the way to go.
Yeah, it's 70. So on the board that we've got on the site now, it's up to 73.5. So if it's still 72.5 on Prize Picks, that's one that we could. Yeah, it is. So that's one we could probably take advantage of. At the 73.5 that we've got it now, it's a 54% win probability, but Alex does have that firm 83.13 projection. So anytime we can get that much margin on the projection, I feel pretty safe on going to that one. So that makes a lot of sense. It's a good call. And then let's see for other ones on the board. We talked about Byron Pringle. His line is at 15.5. It's not a big probability in terms of where we have him projected, what we have the expected win at. But when we think about that average depth of target, that average yards per target, we can probably see that it's 1, maybe 2 catches for him, and he's easily there. So I think that's one that may be in play, despite the probability. It's a little bit over a coin flip at 55% on the 15.5 for Pringle. So I might look to that one if I'm looking for a little bit of an offbeat one. A lot of coin flips on the Vegas side, though. We talked about Renfro and Waller. With Renfro at a 56.5 on the Prize Picks board, is that one you would look at, Nick?
Yeah, I think Alex likes Hunter Renfro so much because they look so similar. But I agree, though. I love Hunter Renfro, so I'm going to go ahead. No shots at Alex, though. I love Alex. So, 56.5, though. We're going over. I love Hunter Renfro tonight.
So you're saying you'd like to set something up where like Alex Caruso, Alex Baker, and Hunter Renfro all get together for drinks and we live stream it or something?
Yeah, and they do like the Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other, like where they're all the same guy. All three of them in the same room.
I like it. Very solid, very solid. Let's see what else is on the board here. Passing TDs. Let's see what our passing TDs are like. Is that on the Prize Picks board? Receiving TDs, pass completions. All right, let's look at pass completions. Why not? 25.5 pass completions for either quarterback. Is it something that's on the board for you here, Nick?
Ooh, I like the. I don't know. I'm pretty close on the completions. We're talking about completions, right? That's what you said.
Yep, 25.5.
25.5 for both of them. I'd lean with the Derek Carr. I really do think that Derek Carr is going to look pretty solid tonight. A lot of people are going to be surprised. I think they're going to be passing a lot because I hope that Patrick Mahomes turns it around here and they're able to put up a solid score, and then Derek Carr's chasing from behind. So 25.5 for Derek Carr. I'm definitely fine taking. Do you like that one, or maybe you're a little bit off that compared to me?
Yeah, no, Alex has him at 59% expected win on that one. That's the highest if you're looking for the over. The Mahomes under, is the highest on the board. We have that as a 26.5 under. It's 26.5 line with the under hitting 71% of the time. So if you take it down by one there, you've got to figure it's going to be maybe mid 60s. So that's still going to be your leading pick there, is the Mahomes under on those pass completions at 25.5. So a little surprising maybe if you think in terms of Pat Mahomes. If you think about it as a get right spot potentially, I think there was a scenario where I'm not sure if it's set up where they were playing for the division tonight in this game as well. Do either of you guys know if that's on the board tonight?
That wouldn't
Depending
surprise
on what
me.
happened, I think, in the Denver game. Yeah, because everybody in this division had 5 wins.
Yeah, let me pull that up real quick.
All right. Thank you, guys. I've got my stuff loaded there. I appreciate that. We got 4 minutes to lock. If you guys have not done that, you're going to want to do so. Also, Will Barton looks like he is questionable tonight. You're going to want to keep tabs on that. I believe that game is tipping off for basketball shortly after we are off air. So don't kick back and relax until you know what's going on with that. It looks like, that game already started. My bad. I must have got a late notification on that one.
Did Will Barton play?
Will Barton is not on the court right now, and Will Barton did not start. Yikes. I'm guessing he's probably out.
Yikes.
But that is neither here nor there, because we've got the old prize picks and NFL with 3 minutes left here. Anything else you guys want to cover? Sorry, I jumped in there to interrupt.
No, it's all good. Terry was correct. This game is for the leader in the division. The Raiders are 5-3. Every other team is 5-4. The Chargers and the Chiefs, and the Broncos are 5-5. So realistically, if the Chiefs do win this game, they will be number 1 in the AFC West. So very important game. I'm honestly surprised that the Chiefs' record is 5-4 with how much people are clowning them, to be honest with you.
That's it. Yeah, I'm playing for first place in their division after all the struggles and strife and everything this year. So it speaks to the parity in this league, particularly in the AFC. If you look down the AFC standings, I mean, there is so much parity. 3 divisions have teams with essentially identical records from top to bottom. Yeah. It's only the AFC South with the Titans up at 8-2 that really has a team that stands out. Everybody else, 6-3 to 5-5 from the Ravens to the Browns, 5-3 to 5-5 from the Raiders to the Broncos, 6-3 to 2-7. So a little bit of a standout in the AFC East, but 6-3 and 6-4 with the Bills and the Pats there. So I mean, it is tight in football this year.
Yeah, and the Dolphins are winning the AFC East though, so it's okay.
Oh, of course, clearly. Classic.
I mean, we just beat the Ravens. Basically, gives us the first place.
All right. We are almost up against the lock here. What do we got here? Huge game for the Raiders. Barton start. Well, I'm looking at the the box score, and he's not up here. He hasn't played yet for the Nuggets. So in any event, sorry, I got distracted by chat because I was just going to commend
What's
chat.
that promo code for what's that promo code for Prize Picks again?
Prize Picks is the promo code Awesemo. Will get you a $100 deposit match. And that money comes out first whenever you make your initial cards.
That's pretty damn generous. One of the other sites that I took advantage of one of our promo codes, and I've turned it into a nice little over the last couple of weeks. So I'm gonna have to do that again and repeat the trick here with Prize Picks. But these alternate sites, guys, the Prize Picks and some of the other ones that sponsor us, it is a great way to jump in, to make money, to get away from some of the optimizers, the sharks, all these things that we talk about, and kind of tackle it a different way. Especially if you're already a sports bettor and you're paying attention to some of these prop bets, jump onto these other sites and get away from DraftKings, get away from FanDuel for a little bit. And check them out. Yeah, I encourage it. I think it's a really good and interesting way to make money, and they're a lot of fun too. It's a different way to play.
Yeah, tons of states don't even have like regular sports books, so Prize Picks is available in a lot of those places where you can go ahead and play those player props. And player props are very intertwined with fantasy football as well, considering there's a lot of fantasy points props as well on Prize Picks.
Absolutely. And we give the tools at the site too. That's the other thing. I know we're going a little bit long, but I mean, it's worth mentioning that what I just said about doing well with these other sites is based entirely on the fact that we've got all these tools on our site that not a lot of people have at their fingertips for Prize Picks, for some of the other sites that give us sponsorship on some of these shows, where we're going above and beyond, providing some information that's pretty critical in terms of what we were just looking at for the probability of these overs hitting, for other sites, for some of their pricing information. Taking advantage of that edge is huge on these sites where other people aren't going to have that information, and they're just kind of blindly making picks. They're picking who they like. They're picking players that are buzzy on other sites and not really thinking through the differences in what they're actually looking at. It's a major, major advantage to have our tools and content for these sites.
All right, with that, gamers, we are going to get on out of here, but we're starting this over again tomorrow. We have, starting it tonight, technically, because we're going to have the Slate Starter NBA podcast is going to be up here in just a couple hours. We're going to have myself and Pete the Heat Rogers keeping the seat warm for Rinpack and for Eric Lindquist, who are both traveling. They will be back at the end of the week and taking over their spot here. But tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. we have the NFL Showdown Strategy Show that is going to be with Dave Alakran and Matt Gajeski. At 10 o'clock we're going to have the NBA Strategy Show. That is with Josh and Adam. That's 11 games on Monday slate. It is a big one. We're going to have 2 other NFL shows and 3 other NBA shows and a whole bunch of other stuff going on tomorrow. The fun never stops here with DFS. Well, it does right around the MLB All-Star break, but we don't have to worry about that. We may not have to worry about an MLB season. But with that, we're going to get on out of here. Follow us on Awesemo over on Twitter at Awesemo_COM. Get all of the fun contests and promos that we have generally posted there on a pinned tweet. With that, thank you to Nick. Thank you to Terry. Shout out to Awesemo for producing behind the scenes here. With that, gamers, good luck.
Let's shake that eagle.